Welcome to this edition of World of MMA Tonight with your host, Tyler Lawrence. On this episode, we have Brent Weedman, who just competed in the Bellator 62 lightweight open round, defeating his opponent, JJ Ambrose, by submission von Vluchoke in the second round. We were able to catch up to him over the phone, and he was able to give us his feedback in regards to his fight. You made your lightweight debut in this event. How did your body take the weight cut?
Well, I tell you, I felt really good. My last few fights at welterweight, I was really starting to feel kind of undersized. Maybe not so much Jay Heron as much as, Hornbuckle was quite bigger than me, and Lozano was, quite a few pounds bigger than me. So I felt like this was finally, appropriately sized. I was a little taller than JJ, but I felt like in terms of overall, muscle and build, we were a little more even. And I felt really good, not to mention the fact that I felt quicker, I felt lighter on my feet. I felt like I had more energy. I feel like I've got a good home here at 55.
In the opening round, you landed a punch on JJ that looked like it rocked him. How bad did you think he was hurt?
It was a flash knockdown. It was a corkscrew jab. It was actually a very specific punch that we trained specifically for this fight. I feel like the commentators really took it to me, and I got to see the fight replayed today. The commentators really took it to me, wondering how somebody with as much experience as I have could let a guy off the hook like that, is how they put it. What's interesting is I've actually said multiple times that one of my big mistakes strategically has been I will drop guys and then immediately follow them to the ground, which, maybe I differ in opinion with some people, but in MMA, but I feel like that can be a mistake, because for every Rick Hahn fight where you drop a guy and then chase him down and he's actually finished, there's 10 fights where you chase a guy down and you give him an opportunity to hold on to you and to clear his head. And so my coach has been telling me, if you look back at my last two fights, I did it with I dropped Jay Heron and I followed him down. I dropped Chris Lozano and I followed him down. And both times they had a chance to hang on, to clear their heads, and to eventually come back and win decisions. So it was a big part of my game plan. If you drop him, step back, make him stand back up. If he's too wobbly to stand up, the fight's over. And as you guys saw, as soon as I stepped back, he popped right back up, and his head was clear, and he scored a great takedown. So I feel like that just goes to vindicate my game plan, that if I would have followed him down, he would have done pretty much the same thing. It was a flash knockdown. It was a heavy jab, but it was just a flash. I don't think he was fully out. He was just on clear street a little bit.
During both rounds, you and JJ both had takedowns, but it looked like your submission skills were a little better with the finish. Did you expect to dominate the fight in this fashion?
I was expecting, in fact, they asked me point blank, Sean Wheelock asked me point blank in the fighters, the pre-commentary interview, how do you think you stack up on the ground? Who's got the better ground game? And I told him flat out, I felt like I did. JJ's got some wrestling skills and some wrestling experience maybe that I don't have. But I feel like overall ground game, I had better ground game than he did. And you're right. I feel like a lot of people don't give me respect for that. I'm a brown belt under Helios Soneca, who, if you know jiu-jitsu, Helios Soneca is a legend. And he gave me all of my rank in jiu-jitsu, my blue belt, purple belt, and brown belt. I have a very highly respected brown belt. People who know the game of jiu-jitsu and know my jiu-jitsu respect my ground game. But I feel like it's just starting to come to light in MMA. So I wasn't surprised. I certainly wouldn't say I gave him the Darce choke or put myself in that position, but I definitely put myself in a position knowing that he was most likely going to go for that Darce choke. He has quite a few finishes with that move. It's one of my favorite moves offensively. I trained it extensively, and I really felt like my answers from that position were stronger than his attack would be. And, it was a calculated risk, sure, but I feel like, I showed like I knew what I was doing. I feel like the ends justify the means. I ended up getting out of it twice with the same sweep, and And there were some people that were surprised by it, but again, if you asked anybody that I grapple with on a consistent basis, I don't think they would be surprised at all, because those half guard positions where I was being attacked are positions where I actually feel quite strong and quite confident. So yeah, there's a little bit of calculated risk on the ground, but I felt really confident. I felt like my ground game matched up really well to a tough guy like JJ, and I guess you could say I gambled, but I won. So.
At one point, you had him in side control, and you were able to deliver some pretty nasty knees to the pec area. Is this something that you guys normally train?
Yeah, those knees are something that we train a lot, in conditioning rounds and in sparring rounds, posturing for those knees to the belly and those knees to the chest. So they were something that I was really prepared for. Something that I wasn't so prepared for, that I haven't run into yet, even though this is my third Bellator tournament, is I ended up in that mounted crucifix, and it was kind of a funny thing where for just a few seconds, for just a split second, I had it both arm trapped, and, your brain says, well, this is it. I've won. I'm in a totally dominant position. But the problem is, then it occurred to me, oh, yeah, I'm not allowed to elbow. And so there was another point where the commentary said, I'm not sure why he gave up the mounted crucifix here, why he moved to something else. It's because it's really kind of difficult to post on a guy's face to push his head away and create the distance you need to strike and then just make a punch as opposed to making elbows. So I felt like I needed to move on to another position and do more damage. And he was also giving me that Von Flue choke a bunch earlier in that round, and so I felt like that was going to be something that came into play, and obviously it did.
If I remember correctly, you went for the Von Flue choke right after you were in the crucifix position.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. That's a move, and it's funny. I want to say up front, I really like Sean and I really like Jimmy. Both are nice, the two commentators. Both are nice guys, and so I don't want this to sound like sour grapes at all. But it's kind of funny because I feel like occasionally I get hung out drunk by commentators, and then something happens where, like, for example, here, I got a lot of criticism for them, and then they turn right around and I end up submitting the guy with a move that neither one of them knows what it is. Jimmy's saying maybe it was shoulder pressure, maybe it was an arm lock, and half the people on the internet are going, what are you talking about? It's a Von Flue choke. Lots of people, that's a very common move. You don't see it very much in MMA for whatever reason, but it's a move. If you're somebody from my gym, you know that move because there's a couple guys in my gym that use that. I've certainly landed a lot in the gym. It's not a rare move or an unorthodox move at all. But that's the nature of the game. I'm not worried. I'm worried about winning fights. I'm not really worried about what the commentators. I'm certainly not thinking about what the commentators have to say while I'm in the ring. But as far as me following, whether or not I followed JJ to the ground or not, when I knocked down Jay Heron and followed him down, I was criticized by the commentary because they heard my corner coach me to not follow him down, and they said, oh, wow, Brent's followed the guy to the ground, and his coach told him not to. That might have been a mistake. And then in this case, 3 fights in a row, I finally do what my corner tells me to do and not follow the guy to the ground and give him a chance to instantly recover. And they said, what a huge mistake. So, it's a little bit of a can't-win situation. So, I put that out of my mind, and I just worry about the W.
It was announced after Bellator 62 that you would be fighting Thiago Michel on April 20th at Bellator 66 in the semifinals of the lightweight tournament. How do you see this fight going?
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't really had too long to think about this fight. Certainly when they announce all of the competitors in the tournament, I like to really visualize myself being matched up with each one of them and thinking about myself possibly fighting all of the other 7 commentators. I mean, 7, not commentators, that's Freudian slip. All the 7 other fighters. But I haven't really had too long to think about this fight too much. I'll be back in the gym tomorrow, so we'll definitely discuss more gameplay with my coach there. I will say, Thiago Michel, we have mutual friends. He's maybe the nicest guy in the tournament. He couldn't be a nicer guy. I've got the utmost respect for him. He's a dangerous fighter. He has really great kickboxing. I'll also say that I love the matchup. I'm very excited about it. I think we match up well on the feet. I feel like my power and my techniques are a good matchup against him, and I feel like clearly my ground game is much better. A lot of his MMA career revolves around having strong kickboxing and strong takedown defense. You know, he doesn't try and hide the fact that he's trying to keep the fight standing and keep it off of the ground. So I feel like my ground game is much better, and I feel confident on my stand-up as well against him. So I'm really excited to sit down, watch a little more tape. I've seen a lot of his fights, but I'd like to watch him a little more closely now and with a little more purpose, and put together a game plan for this. I'm very excited to be back into it. You know, you go from not fighting for 7 months to getting to fight twice in 4 weeks. I'm very excited.
Bellator Fighting Championships is doing a much better job of telling a story behind each one of their fighters. How important do you think this is to kind of give a background behind these athletes?
I think that's pretty darn important. You know, Bellator prides themselves as a company as being a no-nonsense, win or go home. You know, you don't where they say that title shots aren't given, they're earned. You don't get title shots, you don't get big fights in Bellator by being the handsomest or the most popular or from the biggest gym. That's a big one for me. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm the only pro MMA fighter in my gym right now, in my main gym. So, there's some organizations where they're really just trying to pump themselves up by using bigger named fighters. Bellator does it the other way around. They take the guys that are hungriest and the guys that are just flat out winning, and they make them the top guys or whatever. But that being said, you've got to have something to stick out in the fans' minds. And, to be honest with you, I was kind of flattered that Bellator has chosen me to be like the astronomy-loving family guy. And so, that means a lot to me because I feel like they're seeing me as an individual. And I'd like to say on a personal note, I was actually just telling my family because I just got back in town today, this is my 7th fight, I think, maybe 8th, I think 7th fight with Bellator. And one of my favorite parts about the company is that everybody from Bjorn, the president, Sam Kaplan, the vice president matchmaker, all the way down to, the photographers, the cut men, just the regular production guys, we all know each other now. Like, I would consider these guys, friends. And so it makes for a really interesting environment when we travel around with one another and when, these guys, I feel like, they not only care about getting my personality and who I really am on television, but they actually know who I am. Like, they know I'm a guy that's genuinely interested in planets and chess. And so that's what they talk about when they put me on TV. And that makes me glad because when I came into being a professional fighter, I was worried about the fact that to be a successful fighter, I felt like you had to have a shtick. You had to be the guy with the red mohawk and the alcohol problem or whatever. You had to be the guy with the painted toenails and whatever it is. And at Bellator, you can really just be whoever the hell you are, and they're going to put that on TV and try and show people who you are and get this kind of connection with fans. And that means a lot to me. I sort of feel like I don't have to sell out. I can just train, I can be myself, and I can be a professional fighter all at the same time. I couldn't be happier with what Bellator is doing with us.
The video of the week for this episode features Melvin Mature breaking 2 bats, baseball bats that is, with his shin at his recent 808 gym branding.
808.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
Thank you for tuning in to World of MMA Tonight with your host, Tyler Lawrence. Check us out next week when we offer another awesome edition.